All right, guys. Hope you've had a great day. I'm just gonna wait for Angie to jump on, and then I can share screens with her, and she can join as our guest for today's live. I'm just gonna share our video into the Facebook. Here's Angie now. I'll just see if I can get her to jump in. All right, give it a second. All right, got it
Hi,
to work. How you going?
happy days. I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome. Yeah, really, really good. Yeah, so I guess we'll just jump straight into it. I'm just going to share the live into our Facebook group. So just give me a tick.
Awesome.
Just trying to work out where it is. Hang on a second. All right, hopefully this will work. Hang on a tick. Looks like I've got it. All right, cool. So I've had I've got some really good questions for us, I guess, to answer today, and also I'll get you to sort of to jump in and yeah, cover anything, and I'll also bring up, I guess, some common things that I sort of hear. So I guess one of
Awesome.
the first questions that this come from one of our members, and this is probably something that a lot of people find they struggle with, like the knowledge and also what's the right way of going about it, is portion sizes with food without having to, I guess, weigh every single gram of food that goes into your mouth, or measure out every single gram that goes into your mouth, so that you can get a bit more of an intuitive eating method, but still be able to, I guess, be accurate enough that it's going to get you a result. So yeah, I guess we'll start with that one. What's your I guess good advice for portion sizes?
Awesome. Great question. And I think this is really important to address because too many people are fixated on the number. And what the number means isn't much when we think about food and digestion. There's so much more than just a number in terms of calories or logging into MyFitnessPal or doing those sorts of numbers. So to start with, I guess that gives you a kind of fair idea about what food is worth, if that makes sense. So in terms of energy, but also it's nice to have an awareness of what macro breakdown foods are. So say, for instance, we can classify into different food groups. So what sort of food is a protein, what's a fat, what's a carbohydrate, and alcohol has a separate category all on its own. But when we're looking at portions, and I guess what people really want to understand is that it's funny because I have written really in detail, gram for gram meal plans, and then I've just given meal plans which have used hand portions. And to be really quite honest, we've gotten pretty much exactly the same results. So
Yeah.
what it comes down to is that your needs are directly proportional to your hands. Now, don't go and look at your partners, at your boyfriends, at your girlfriends, at your kids' hands, because they would be directly proportional to their needs. So basically, what I'm looking at is really, really simple. Keep it super simple. A palm size, so looking at your palm and the circle bit on the inside and the same sort of thickness would be a protein, is what I'm looking for in terms of a portion of that macronutrient. If we were to cup our hands, so say for instance, whatever carbohydrate cooked weight that you could hold in that cupped hand, that would be a serving of carbohydrate. If we looked at our thumbs, so a full serve of your thumb is a fat serve.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gives you an idea, where's my fats, where's my protein, where's my carbohydrate coming from. However, my biggest thing, and the first thing I always say with everyone, if you want really, really good results, you've got to start here first. And that is, what is my veggie and salad count? And this should be 2 fist sizes or 2 cups at least on a plate with your protein, with your carbohydrate, with your fats, and start with one of those of each of those food groups, except the veggies and salad. That needs to be 2 fists.
Yeah.
But start with that as a base, I would always say. And I can often think, if you think about what you're currently eating and match that up against those palm sizes that I've just given you tonight for your dinner and see how far on or off the mark that you are. So start with that.
Yeah, awesome. Really love it. Yeah, it definitely breaks it down, makes it a lot simpler rather than
Keep it easy.
yeah,
Yep.
thinking. And that, I think that's, yeah, I've never sort of thought of it that way. Your palm size is obviously relative to the size of person that you
Yep.
are. A smaller
Yep.
person's obviously going to most likely have a smaller palm. So yeah, that was
Yep.
really, really good. I love that. So that was a question that came from Amy. So thanks for that question, Amy. It's really, really good. Another one is, and this came from another of our members, Amanda. And this is a really, really good question: is what's the best probiotic, or do we need prebiotics also? And I think it's so relative now because gut health is such a big thing, and I think obviously as the years have gone on, our food quality is probably not as high as it was say 30 years ago because soils have changed and things like that, and like the pesticides on food and things like that obviously have a manipulation to your gut health. So yeah, what recommendations do you have on sort of prebiotic, probiotic, and like the gut health sort of side of things?
Yeah, fabulous question and really topical at the moment. So I think lots of people are weighing in on this, and it's the gut health buzz at the moment, but you've got to be really careful who you trust when they're talking as well. So the best thing that we can do, you actually need both. So what probiotics are the good bacteria that we can possibly get from some of our foods already. So they're naturally contained in fermented foods, things such as say kimchi, kombucha, even yogurt. I mean, yogurt is the first one, has acidophilus, lactobacillus. So these are the really good gut bacteria that we can find simply from our foods that really nurture and nourish our gut and create a really nice home or microbiome or environment in and around our guts. But I always like to explain this as a little bit of a party. So if you want to have a great party, right, you need a couple of things. So you firstly need really good guests. So that's your probiotics. So you want to put the good guys in. So you want to be having lots of foods that are going to have those probiotics in there. You can also take a supplement if you feel like you're missing out or if your immunity is a little bit subpar. So you could go and take something like Inner Health Plus. Now, I'm going to say Inner Health Plus, but I'm also going to say that it's probably not the best one to take. So what you're looking for in a good probiotic, if you're going to go and buy a supplement, is over 25 billion CFUs, and that stands for colony forming units. So on the label of a probiotic, you'll find that number somewhere. And it just tells us how much of those strains of good probiotics are actually in the tablet or the capsule that you're taking. So unfortunately, the Inner Health Plus is actually really on the bottom of that rank. So it's quite low from that perspective of CFUs. Now, if you're going to look for another higher quality one with a higher dose, a little bit more of a broad-based strain, then you're looking for something like Bioceuticals Ultraceutical 45. Even further to that, if you're really quite sick or if you've gone through a hard dose of antibiotics, if you've been really sick, you want to reinstate the good gut bacteria because antibiotics strip all the bacteria, good and bad, from your system. So it's good to have when you've got an infection, and obviously that's for a really good reason. But over the course of that time, they're going to strip your good gut bacteria too. So it's really good to put some probiotics in there at those sorts of times in your life. As you can hear, my voice is not really great, so I've even been popping probiotics of late because it's just the season, it's the year for doing that sort of stuff, and it's a nice little protective mechanism as well. So those are the two brands that I'd recommend. VSL number 3 is an even more hardcore one that you can get. You can buy it online, Chemist Warehouse, that sort of place. So look for the colony forming units. That's the biggest key factor when you're choosing a probiotic. Now, of course, you've invited all these lovely guests to your amazing party, but you have to provide them with some really good food to eat. And this is where prebiotics come in. So prebiotics are basically the foods that we find within our diet that your probiotics love to feed off. So unfortunately, if they're not getting a really good prebiotic amount, they're basically just going to go, see you later, I'm out the door. So they actually just get rid of in terms of get out of your system. So they really need that good prebiotic. So let's talk about some good prebiotic foods, things that are really super high in fiber and resistant starch. So I'm talking things like whole grains, legumes, so chickpeas, kidney beans, beans, that sort of thing. Things with like orange, so really high antioxidant fruits. So the ones with the red, the purple, and the dark skins on them, berries, pomegranate, cherries, absolutely beautiful. And also things that have like we said, that resistant starch. So things like leek, garlic, and onion. So those are the really, really good prebiotic foods that we can add into our diet that's going to help to feed the good probiotics that we're putting in with supplementation or with our food as well. So hopefully that clears it up.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That yeah, definitely simplifies it because yeah, I sometimes even get confused with probiotic, prebiotic. And like,
Yep.
do I need to take it? And like I probably know myself. I'm really lucky. I've got really good gut bacteria. But yeah, it is it's something that you do find people get. They just and they'll live with it for so long, like a really upset stomach, and think it's just normal. I'm like, it's not normal. You need to get that.
Yeah.
Because it can affect so many other aspects of your life. So hopefully, yeah, that sort of simplifies it. That bringing, you got to have, I guess that how you sort of spoke about it, bringing it to the party, you got to also then feed them as well. So yeah, awesome. Another really good question I got was about fasting. So I guess this sort of comes back to, and I always say this to clients as into my members, as our members at FITA-U Center. I'm like, look, it depends on, like, if you find you can't stomach breakfast and you have, like, you feel like you find it more beneficial to not eat till 10, 11 a.m., then, if it's not going to affect, I guess, your training levels, your energy levels in training, then do it. But what's, I guess, your overall view on fasting, and does it have a better effect on, like, from a fat loss or performance perspective?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Ash. I think really it's about why, or what is the reason that you're doing it. Because for some people, and for majority of people, I would say that they would do fasting or intermittent fasting or some version of that for weight loss or for fat loss, right? But there are other people, and there's a lot of great other research that's looking at this from a longevity standpoint. So even just looking at autophagy and cell clearing and regeneration and things like that, and brain function, so mental health state and things like that too. So hello, you can see my little one in the background. Hi. We'll keep pushing on. So I guess what we're looking at with hello. So I guess what we're looking at is a couple of different things. I love it for, depending on the certain type of population. So I love it for people that are probably in their probably 40s or 50s. Their lifestyle's a little bit different, and they might be just doing a little bit more socializing possibly, or they might have high corporate jobs where they're not doing as much activity. And in that case, like you said, Ash, it's probably okay to go for or abstain from periods of time where you aren't having food, and that's essentially fasting. So what we wanted to do is have a look at, and what the research supports is people that fast, I guess, for a 16-8 window. And I would say males are really designed to suit that. I would do intermittent fasting. So this is probably one of the best protocols I've seen within my type of clientele is the 16-8 for the males. Thank you. And for females, the 10-14. So what that means is you're fasting for 14 hours and you're having an eating window of 10 hours. But for the males, if you're doing a 16-8, obviously you're fasting for 16 hours and you've got an 8-hour eating window. Now, this by default ends up cutting out food groups. So if you put some boundaries on the limitations or the time that you're actually eating within that time frame, obviously if you're snacking late at night, that gets eradicated, and then it leads to just having a deficit overall. So then you could contribute to obviously having weight loss. Now, from that perspective, I think it's a good thing if you weren't training consistently and really hard every single day. So that eating and fasting window might always depend on what time of day that you're actually training. So for my athletes, for my athletes, so for you guys that are getting up in the morning and training straight away, what I would say is possibly have a play around with it, because I don't really want to be doing maximal sessions on empty. And that's the big key, is like you've just got to time that. So I might start with doing it on a day where you're not training. So have a look at what fasting might feel like on a day when you don't train, see how it goes. If your energy is great, then that's fantastic. But I probably would take it away from a training day, just because I know that you need the energy availability to do the maximal lifts that you want out of the gym. So it really, like I said, it depends on your intent, depends on what you're trying to get out of it as well. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a really good summary on it. And a final question, and this is really, I guess, we have a lot of ladies at our gym that are in the age bracket sort of between 40 to 50 and are going through, I guess, that sort of menopause phase. And
sorry, Ash. I'm back.
You're back. But
sorry.
while going through, I guess, that menopause phase, is there better foods or supplements that you can take to, I guess, not, I guess, reduce the symptoms, but to help, I guess, level out like the issues or things that you sort of experience during those periods?
Look, I definitely think that there is, but I don't think that there's any magic bullets. So that's the biggest thing. What can you hear? I'm just getting a recall.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear that too? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, no. Yeah, I can hear you normally. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so what I would suggest for this sort of age group is there's a lot of other things before we look to supplement that we should be looking at with our diet day to day before we look at any sort of supplementation. Now, there is some sort of tendency because of this period of the life that hormonal change is happening. So it favors something that's a lowering of estrogen and by default an uppering of sort of testosterone. So what happens there is that this type of age group will then in time will actually start to hold body fat in around the midsection rather than the hips and thighs. Which is probably what they ordinarily would have normally been seeing. So from that perspective, there is a tendency for insulin, a little bit of insulin resistance, which means that they're not processing carbohydrate foods that well. And it happens particularly early in the morning and late at night time. So what I would do with this type of clientele is to have a look at sort of abstaining. If you're not training really heavily in the morning, day in, day out, I would probably abstain from having heavy carbohydrates and refined carbohydrates in particular in the morning and in the evenings. So if you can try and pop it in the middle of the day within that daylight hours, it's going to be really beneficial. But I would also have a look at some other lifestyle factors that are going on, particularly alcohol is a really, really big one, and sleep. You know, those are the two key factors that I would say I'd have a look at first before I then look to supplementation. So there isn't really any specific supplementation we can take for that unless you're going to go down the pathway of hormone replacement therapy, which of course you'd be needing to talk to your GP about from that perspective. But it's definitely on the cards in terms of something that is I guess dealt with in a multidisciplinary team. So we need all aspects of that as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, guys, we were just talking on, sorry if it broke up a little bit in the early stages, nutrition,
Yes.
I guess, to help with premenopause or menopause phase. So yeah, I think we'll leave it there, Angie. We've covered some really, really good topics. So for anyone that's interested in hearing more and I guess if you've got any further questions, we have Angie coming to our second birthday celebrations, to FITA-U Performance Centre's second birthday celebrations this Saturday. She'll be at the centre from about 7:45 to 8:15. So not a huge window, but we're hoping to get some really good topics. So if you have any questions or you would like to
pop them down, let me know.
Yeah, just let either me or Angie know, and we can slot you in. We've still got some spots. We've always got room. So yeah, be happy to have you guys along. We've also got we've got a workout also after that, and then some really good birthday cake from NutriHit, which will be really great. So
love those guys.
Thanks so much for your time today, Angie. Really, really appreciate it. And
absolute
super
pleasure.
Valuable information. So yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. Yeah. I just think, you know what, it's just a test. It's just a teaser. So whatever you do, come on Saturday, because I think we can always go through all those questions with the whole crowd there. So let's get some energy happening. Come on down and see us. Yay.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thanks so much.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.